Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage and the CX. I have too many cars at the moment. Anyway, I want to continue work on this because I want this on the road ASAP. This is, after all, my plan for my winter driver. As you can maybe see, I got new tires on it. I did not do anything about the rims, so they look quite terrible. The clever thing would have been to clean them up, sandblast them and paint them before fitting the rubber, but I don't have time. I need this car on the road. Also, a part of me is starting to really think it could be fun to try to polish this paint a bit. It will never be perfect because the clear coat is missing, but I think I could make it pretty nice, especially with some wax over it afterward. But again, it's not the big priority. The big priority is to replace the exhibition number plates with actual real number plates. What I want to do now is attend to the rear wheel, because back here I have a little problem. This rear wheel bearing is completely shot. Either it's completely shot or it's loose somehow, because there's a lot of play in it, and it is also rumbling, so that bearing is most likely dead. I was lucky to find a new bearing for this, because much to my surprise, this is not something you can just go and buy. It's actually quite difficult to find, and as you can see, this is old stock, but hopefully it will work. For some reason, the rear bearing for the CX is difficult to find. Also, the rear brake disc is difficult to find. Don't ask me why, because there is quite a lot of these cars on the road, so I was a bit surprised about such a basic thing like a bearing to be hard to find. Anyway, I got one now, and let's try to fix this. So, what I want to do now, before starting to remove the rear, according to the Haynes at least, is to remove system pressure on the hydraulic system, because I'm going to remove the brake caliper also to get to that bearing, and also I want to change the brake pads and all that. So let's do that. And the first thing the manual is telling me is to put the lever in the lowest setting on the suspension. Open up the bleed screw on the pressure, on the hydraulic pressure on the hydraulic system. It should be down there somewhere. By the way, when you lift up the CX, you should take care, because the balance point is quite bad with the jacking points, the factory jacking points. The CX is so front heavy that when it's lifted on all 4 jacking points, it will be close to the tipping point. So you should be a bit careful about that, especially if you go ahead and remove the interior while it's lifted. Nothing happened, but it was quite close to a tipping point at one point. So right now I actually have a spare tire in the rear of the car just to balance it out a little bit, because this car is extremely front heavy. Take a look at the engine. It is really a long way forward comparing it when you look at the front wheel. So the weight it's very nose heavy. And when it's lifted like this, it is quite wobbly like this, and it's not the lift. I have had a lot of comments for some reason about my lift. This lift is a high quality item, and it's not even close to the limit with this car. It's a 2,500 kilo lift, so this is not pushing it at all, but it is, however, a little bit sketchy with this car. Anyway, now I can hear the pressure being bled back into the reservoir. Let's just go ahead and see if the pressure is actually released, because this car's been on for half an hour ago, and the Diravi steering will be working for quite a while. So if I turn it, it will turn back to this position. So let's see if it does that now. Nope. So there is no pressure on this system. That would not be possible to do with pressure on it. So if you are new to Citroen CX or the system with the Diravi steering, this is a very uncommon sight to see a CX with the wheels not pointing straight, because that is not possible to do unless you actually physically hold the steering wheel. Otherwise, it will just return to straight line, which is interesting, fun, and you have to learn to drive with it because it's a bit special. There we go. I do plan to change the gaskets in between of this, so otherwise it will be a good thing to clamp it together when taking it off, because it is split down the middle. Oh, I hope it's not going to snap in there. It's feeling a little bit weird. Yeah, it's fine. There we go, and the rubber stayed in place. It's really loose. It's screwed into the hub with Allen keys. Important to make sure that it's seated all the way down there. There we go, that's one. There we go. A very, 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 very big bearing with what seems to be quite a lot of looseness. Wow, it looks so nice in there. Because it's aluminum, it looks really nice. Need to clean this out of course, but yeah, nice. I'm gonna put this in the workbench. So with the hub assembly now in the vise clamped down using one of the wheel bolts, I'm gonna loosen up that big nut, and I don't know what size it is actually, but being Citroen, it's just a bit extreme. 52. The biggest one I have is 47, which is for the 2CV, for the spring pots. It's just crazy sizes. So I'm hoping to do a little bit of a shade tree mechanic thing. Grab it with this one, put an extension on it, and then let's see. It's supposed to be really tight. Whoa. And it is really tight. It's moving, but the top part is not moving, so I wonder how this is actually fitted together. I'm just reading the manual right now, but I'm not sure that it's taking into account of the ABS system. There's a hole with a thread in it, so I wonder if it's pushed in. Okay, so the problem I'm having right now is that this one is not spinning when this one is spinning, and this one needs to spin up to remove the thing. This O-ring in here will be squashed if I do that, because, yeah, and I'm not really sure how to do this. Okay, so this seems to be one of those things that is really difficult to find any information about. There's nothing in the Haynes manual. I just asked a guy who knows a lot about these cars, and he didn't really know it either. But there is a threaded hole in this, and I cannot see why there should be that, other than either the part is used for something else, or the threads are used to press this out, and then it's pressed in. So I'm going to try and really hope that's the case, and I'm not going to destroy anything. So let's just try to apply some force and see if it starts to move. I'm just going to move you down to the action part of the scene. So now I just hope to see this one move upwards and the rest of the stuff to stay in place. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Ha ha ha! Nice. Exciting way to make stuff, Citroen, I gotta say. So then I can continue on removing the big bolt without destroying that O-ring in between, oil ring in between. So let's just continue with this big. I'm gonna have a problem when I fit this back together because it most likely needs some kind of torque value. I will not be able to do that with this tool, and I doubt that I will have a torque wrench that goes to the amount needed. So I'm gonna do that on feel, which will make some people very scared. But the worst thing that can happen is that I over tighten it and wear the bearing, but this bearing is massive, so I really doubt that. The other thing that could happen is that it loosens up over time, but that won't happen either. Ah, that's too optimistic. It's really tight. If it loosens up over time and the wheel falls off, it won't be an issue because it's a Citroen with hydraulic system. It can just run around on 3 wheels. Yeah, it would be a little bit unpleasant to actually lose a wheel on the go. But it would actually be able to proceed anyway. I actually don't expect it to be very tight on there, so I think this should work. Yeah, there we go. It's coming off. So that's one bearing off, together with the oil seal on the inside and the inner race. The new kit that I bought got one oil seal. It doesn't got the inner one, so I hope to be able to reuse this, but I can change this one at least. The bearing was really expensive, so it's a bit annoying that it's missing that, but that's just the way it is. Oh, the balls are falling out now. I don't know why, but I'm gonna save some of these balls because you never know. One day, yeah, I know. Really just should throw them out. So I'm just gonna clean this part up. There we go, it's seated in there, ready. Unfortunately, the inner race opted to just stay in place, so I need to pull that off as well. And now I think I will be able to use my race puller for that. Yeah, I have bent that quite a bit. I'm unsure if that is because the quality of this tool is bad or my usage of it is a bit rough from time to time. I think it's a really good mixture of those two. So now it's just a matter of applying some pressure and it should come off. There we go. This is actually going better than I was expecting. when I saw that. I have never in my life seen a bearing this big on a passenger car. It's crazy big. So that's it. Now it's just a matter of putting this bearing on. But before going to the press, I'm just going to grease this side of the bearing because that will be shut off when I press it in. So I'm just going to give it some high quality grease for the bearing. And then take it to the press to force it the rest of the way in. So these bearings are really hard to get and to find because they're not readily available. But also I think it's really rare that you need to change them because they are massive. I wouldn't be surprised if the one that I changed was the original one with 400,000 kilometers on the clock. And yeah, it's really massive. Nice. So far so good. And then I'm just going to tighten it up on feel. And that I wouldn't do and that I wouldn't advise to do. But I think I got a feeling for doing it somehow in the ballpark, so it will be all right. I'm happy with this. It also is, and it's also the exact same place as before. Now I'm just gonna bend it in like this. There we go. And then I'm going to grease this part, or this side of the bearing. Make sure, and I'm making sure to force the grease into the bearing. Now I'm ready to put that back in. And yes, I know I have to fit the brakes and all that, but I'm just going to fit the disc really quickly and the tire to just do a test of the bearing and hopefully I will no longer have any looseness in that, and also hopefully it spins without noise. I do think it's going to be a little bit tight though. That's my overall feeling. I hope I haven't tightened it up too much, but it feels a little bit tight. But in my experience, new bearings do sometimes feel a little tight until they settle in. So now let's see. Oh, no looseness at all. Oh, and it spins without a noise and pretty freely also. There's a little bit of drag, but it's not a lot. I think that is perfect. So this will be all for this video. In the next video I will continue on most likely the rust or the brakes, but I think I will leave this video as just the bearing change because I could imagine other people with CXs would like to watch this, to be honest, because it's very different from other cars, which is no surprise. It is a Citroen, but yeah, it was actually quite a lot of fun to change. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.